Hey y'all, today we have another familiar face, somebody who hasn't been on in a while, but is a great friend of the show, Austin Krell from the Painted Lines. He also is a contributor for USA Today. A great guy, covers the Sixers, but of course has a lens on the whole league. I mean, let's just jump right into it. I mean, we think Joel Embiid is winning this year's MVP, right?
Yeah, I think all the votes are starting to come in, and it's like pretty much. It isn't universal, but I think a heavy amount is going to be
Okay.
Joel. I think people talk to the prominent voices in the NBA a lot to get their opinions, and those prominent voices say, "Yeah, I'm voting Embiid." The rest kind of follows suit because they know that everyone else is going to be voting Embiid. And I think, I personally, I think it's going to be Joel winning by a good amount. So,
Do you think that that's a obviously it's a simplistic way of thinking about this, but is that a good thing for the Sixers or a bad thing for the Sixers?
so the way I kind of look at it is, I think him winning MVP would be a nice consolation if they don't get out of the second round of the playoffs. And I think that would at least keep him satisfied, content in some ways for another season. I don't think you have to have the whole like how do we keep Joel happy conversation in this offseason. Because then he won't be like, well, I'm never going to get recognized in Philly. But I do
right.
think that going forward, if he wins it, he also has to understand he's going to be, not that he already wasn't, but he's going to be more so the face of scrutiny in the NBA. All the lights are going to be on him like they were on Jokic and Giannis. When he has a bad game, it's going to be maybe we shouldn't have voted for Embiid, maybe we should have voted for Giannis or Jokic. Those two would never do this or that. Nope, there's no more him flying under the radar for stinkers and games where it's low effort and people are gonna want more out of him every night because you're now in that class. So I think there is a certain responsibility that comes with the award that he didn't have before. But if he comes to work every night for the professional effort, it's only going to be good things for him.
But so I agree with everything you said there, and that you raised really interesting point. But also MVP is not best player in the league, and I've been watching, and I want to say it's Joel Embiid, but when I'm watching the game, it's Giannis. I mean, do you agree there?
No, I think Joel is the best player in the league right now.
Wow, that's interesting.
And I think it's not by a sizable margin. But I do think it's like Joel is. He's checked all the boxes for me this season. He's beaten Jokic. I don't care that he sat out the last game in Denver. He's beaten Jokic handily and led his team back to victory. He's beaten both other guys this season. Giannis is not a 49% mid-range shooter the way that Joel is, and Joel being that good of a shooter is absolutely absurd on the volume of shots he takes. So, we could say he's not as good of a passer as Jokic. We could say, he's not this never-ending engine the way that Giannis is. Bottom line is, I think he's the best two-way. I think you can make a case he's the best two-way player in the NBA right now.
Wow. So you think that? So I was going to ask you about potentially Giannis making it into the GOAT conversation, but you don't even think he's the best player right now, is what it sounds like.
Correct. So, I do think you win 2-2 in a row, you win a championship, you're going to be, in that pantheon of great players. Like obviously Giannis is a great player. He's consensus one of the top 3 players in the league right now. I do think when you evaluate though, like you can't just evaluate box score numbers. You have to look at how they do it. And Giannis is not a great shooter. And I don't see how we could put a guy in the GOAT conversation when the two guys that are ostensibly the greatest players of all time, and LeBron and Jordan, those guys were better shooters than Giannis is. And, I think it's a slap in the face to those who are great shooters when you say that Giannis is, up there in the GOAT. I think he's Gonna finish as
Kareem's
one
in the
of.
conversation. Kareem's in that conversation,
Don't get me
and he
started on
can
people
shoot.
before. Don't get me started on people before a certain year.
Oh no, you're gonna make people angry, Austin.
Oh yeah,
He said,
yeah.
I'm not talking pre-Jordan, nobody other than Jordan and LeBron.
That's why I don't want to hear about
Bill
uh,
Russell.
yeah, Andrew White from 1949. I don't want to hear about any of those guys. Let's keep it
Okay.
to where the game is now.
So like Kobe, those guys.
Yeah, I think those guys
Tim
played.
Duncan can't get in there.
If you wanted to put Tim Duncan there, I think he makes the cut. I think he makes the
Okay.
cut. But
Okay.
I
He's the
think
only
that
one of that size.
well, I mean, so I think once you open the door, you have to open it to a lot of different people. And I think, like the way I view it is, people got all mad at JJ Redick about saying the plumbers and firemen thing that he said about the greatest of
Hmm.
all time. But I do think that
Hmm.
there is an element of truth to that. Like the league was not back then what it is now. It's a different world.
That's true. It's truly professional basketball now.
Yeah,
Like
and like we
you
could
make
say how
great
great.
money.
Yeah, and we could say how great that those guys were. Right. The bottom line is, I don't like, and people could say, this guy would have dominated this era, that era, maybe, but also maybe the skill disparity, the level of skill that guy had for his era would not have been good enough to get him on the court enough in this era.
It's true. Wow. So somebody who is in that conversation legitimately, LeBron, he got a nice break with Rudy Gobert punching the wall yesterday. I mean, what the hell? I mean, now
Yeah.
Rudy's done for the season? What?
So Rudy punched Kyle Anderson and Jaden McDaniels punched the wall.
Jaden punched the wall.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, but the catch is, I think you can make the argument that the more valuable player to the team is McDaniels.
McDaniel.
Yeah. So LeBron might catch a break with him being at, because he's the best perimeter defender. I think I did a mock ballot for the awards, and I think I made McDaniels an all NBA defender, pretty sure.
Mm, mm.
So he's been one of the best defenders in the league this year. That will certainly make life a little easier for Davis and LeBron. But an incredible way to end your season. Two guys punch different things, and you still win the game.
What chance are you giving the Wolves to knock off the Lakers?
Oh, I doubt it. I think Anthony Edwards is a great player, but I don't know that they have the cohesiveness and the connectivity right now when they need to have it in order for them to beat a team like the Lakers that is finding their sense of self and is riding high right now.
They look really good. Austin Reeves, I love his game. He's an exciting young guy to play, young man to watch play. I mean, he's only 2 years in the league. Anthony Davis seems like he wants to be a great player at the moment, and so that's always good to see. Hachimura was a great trade deadline pickup. He's going to be more valuable, I think, in the playoffs when you got to shrink the bench and you got to get hybrid kind of players, positionless players, but he's got to stop missing those layups. I've seen him miss way too many bunnies. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you cover the Sixers, you get familiar with Miss Bunnies thanks to D'Anthony Melton. So I know all about Miss Layups.
So that Melton pickup, I mean, let's talk about that, man. The pickup of Melton has been a lot better than I expected. Did you expect him to fit this well with the team? I thought he'd be good, but I mean, he fits like a glove for what this Sixers team is trying to do.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I didn't expect him to come out and be like the 40% 3-point shooter that he was for a good part of the season. The shooting, I think the shooting has been up and down ever since like the new year started. I think you could argue, but I think just generally speaking, he's been a very good team defender. He's been an opportune rebounder when they need rebounds for sure, and the shooting has been good at times. So all the things that you could have asked for out of a guy that you got for 34-year-old with a torn ACL and a late first round pick, Yeah, I think it's been a very good pickup for the Sixers for sure.
Somebody who didn't fit like a glove was Kyrie Irving down in Dallas. Uh, I mean, where do we even start there?
You start there with Jalen Brunson, who they lost for nothing in free agency, and then they had to trade their best defensive player away to get Kyrie Irving. So they tried to put a band-aid on a bullet hole, and the bullet hole only got wider.
Yes. And then they like push the bullet hole in because with you know, I just couldn't understand. I was very excited about that Mavs Suns game. It was a very good game, very Sunday afternoon game. They're playing. It was, very fun to watch. And then the fourth quarter comes, and like a lot of the fourth quarters, even in that big one, you've got Luka not coming off the bench until 6 minutes left in the fourth. And they just rode Kyrie way too heavy and kind of just completely turned the reins over. It seems like Luka's not pissed and he's saying that he's still happy to be there. Maybe that's just good team player speak, but they may have dodged a bullet there, using bullet references all throughout this conversation. But that could have really pissed off another superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, like Jason Kidd's, uh, I think rotation as the head coach has been that he's a pretty short lived guy wherever he's been, and I think Luca is saying the right things right now because I don't think you factor in as much as a target as a market for high level players when there's thought that the best player on the team could be unhappy. Guys aren't going to come there when they're like, well, will he be here in a year? So I think right now his move was, diplomatic and correct to say that he was happy here because it gives his team a chance to be a good option in free agency. But I think if they go through, they don't do much, and then a similar outcome happens next season, then I think you have a major problem.
Kyrie's gone, of course. I don't think you can bring him back I mean, where does he go? Where does he make it to the Lakers?
Could be the Lakers. Yeah, I mean, I, I think if I were a player, which I am not close to a player, if I were a player, I would be thinking about like I don't want like I was a top pick. I don't want to be considered this journeyman who went around the
Right,
league everywhere.
right.
And like I want to like I want to know what jersey I'm going to wear when I'm in the Hall of Fame. And
That's right.
and I want to be known for being with one team. Right now he's known for making maybe the greatest shot in NBA history in Game 7 of the Finals, and then known for a lot of things not related to
Ray
basketball.
Allen. You think it's better than the Ray Allen? Just not to
But
distract from your point, but
well, that was Kyrie was Game 7. This was
it was game 7.
that was
Game 6.
game 6. Yeah, that
They
was Game
wheeled
6
out
that had the
the
game. Yeah,
trophy.
correct. Spurs were
Yeah.
ready to celebrate, and Ray hit the shot, but like that was game that won a championship. That shot, and with less than a minute to go in Game 7. So that was arguably the greatest shot in NBA history. But he's also known for things off the court after that. Really, he's known as an all-world talent with
Yep.
issues that are not related to basketball and reliability and controversial stances on things. So
I
if I'm
think he makes the Hall of Fame. I think he makes it, but you're right that there's no right jersey to put him in. I guess the Cavs. I guess.
right, but if I'm a star player, I'm thinking I don't want to be like moving every 3 or 4 years. I want to be able to establish myself and be a permanent fixture here, and
Mhm.
that's just the way I would view it. So if I'm
Mhm.
him, I don't know how he views it. I don't think he wants to go somewhere where they're in a rebuild or I don't think he's going to Detroit per se, right? Um, but I think Dallas. It wouldn't surprise me if he stayed in Dallas because I think he has all the leverage to get what he wants out of them because they gave up everything to get him.
Or the Clippers with Kyrie and Paul
That would,
George.
or I guess the Lakers,
Yeah.
right? Like that. I mean, they want D'Angelo Russell. They say. So we will see. I think a lot of what they view about D'Angelo Russell will be determined in these playoffs, or these the play-in and then playoffs. But um, I think Clippers would be very fascinating with Kyrie Irving. That's for sure.
It would be fun. The just like the Mavs were fun and the Nets were fun and
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. The Celtics were fun for a little while too, and then
they were. But
and they
the
weren't fun anymore.
winning, a GM has to think, on the other hand, like he has a demonstrated track record of not being a winner. It's unfortunate. But that Cavs championship, yeah, he hit that big shot, but that was definitely, now in retrospect, people were, there was a lot of slander about LeBron at the moment, especially from, a great person in this industry from FS1, Mr. Bayless, talking about that Kyrie saved him and that with all that. But I think with, in hindsight, I think LeBron's getting a lot more credit for that championship and being able to deal with Kyrie.
For sure. I mean, Kyrie goes to Boston. They are very good for a year, and then they flame out next year. Goes to Brooklyn. They are never really great. They look great, but they're never really great. And then he flames out there, and now he's in Dallas. And I think he did all the right things in Dallas. He stayed on the court, and he was, he had a great reputation, as what's been reported publicly, amongst his team and teammates, but they fell apart immediately. He's never been a leader on
That's
a
right.
great team. And people can say like, well, this and that. It's just the facts. Like every team he's been on has. You could argue, well, the Cavs didn't, but the Celtics were literally in a better spot when he left. Like
That's right.
they got Kemba, and then they pivoted into now they're a contender for the finals. The Nets are not in a better position, but you can see that people are happier in Brooklyn right now than they were. So
they won't be too happy in about a week or two. I mean,
they'll be on the Yankees by then.
So let's get to that series. Talking about the Nets. James Harden. What for them to make a serious run? I think everybody kind of pencils in the Sixers as a second round team, but they're kind of penned in as a second round team until further notice as well. If I tell you that the Sixers make a conference title or NBA finals run, what does Harden need to average? His just average for the playoffs?
22-11, what he's averaged all season long. All season
Really?
long.
It's a steady? Wow.
Stay steady, be efficient. I don't need I needed an assist to turnover ratio of like 4-1. Like
Okay.
you can't have 16, 11, and 8 with 8 turnovers. Like you can't, that won't work. I need you to play what you've done, do what you've done most of the season, maybe a little bit better as a scorer, but generally I need you to be what you were all season long for me to believe that this team has a chance. One prominent ESPN analyst said, Boston is sitting strong right now. They're kind of just laughing off the fact that they lost to the Sixers by 2 last week. And his opinion
They
was,
should.
I don't know though, because if Joel is playing the way that Joel played in that game, and Harden is B+ Harden, I don't know that series is a wash, or I don't know that series is Celtics running away with it. And
No, it's not.
I do think this. We can say Jaylen Brown was out. We can say Robert Williams III was out. What we also know is that when it came to crunch time in the third game of the season series, when Jason Tatum hit the game-winning shot, Joel was so good, and he was such an impactful defender because Robert Williams is not a perimeter threat, that Robert Williams had to be benched in crunch time.
That's true.
And so, that was a factor. And it's harder for him to defend. I asked him this question. He said, I don't want to give away scouting report, but it is it's schematically more difficult to defend when the team was playing 5 out. They can't play 5 out with Williams in the court because he's not a shooter.
No.
And then you get over to Jaylen Brown. He's a great player, right? Like an awesome player. And when you take him out of the equation, it on paper that should mean that it's a much easier game for you to play. Uh, it's not that easy when those shots that he would normally take are then spread around amongst two or three other guys. Derek White had 26 in that game. Marcus Smart does what Marcus Smart does. Grant Williams got more shots. So as much of a star as Jaylen Brown is, when he and Tatum are combining for 40, 45, 50 shots, the ball isn't spreading around as much. And that makes you a little bit easier to defend.
Easier
I
to
mean,
defend.
look at the spacing that the Celtics had in that game. That fourth game that they played last week. Their spacing was phenomenal. Marcus Smart was on the left wing. Derek was on the right wing. And the Sixers really had to stretch out. And because the ball was flying around and it was easier for Boston to get open threes. Maybe the ball still flies around in a series, and it will because that's their DNA. But it's a little bit easier for you to figure things out when, two guys are combining for half of the field goal volume. Now, will those other guys make shots? Sure. Will but you will live with those other guys making big time shots in the guts of games in the playoffs. So I think will the Celtics win the series? I would guess the Celtics win in 7. That's my pick right now. But I do think that it isn't this Boston wipes Philadelphia off the floor.
What about Toby? What do they need for Toby to get to a conference finals or NBA championship? What do they need for Tobias Harris in terms of average?
I don't think his average is the thing that I would worry about. I think with Tobias, it's when the ball comes your way, be ready to shoot and just knock down 40% of your open threes, 38, 40% of your open threes. No stalling out the offense with dribbling the ball to death or standing there and trying to figure out how you're going to pivot into a low volume or a low quality post up. Just when the ball comes your way, ready to attack off the dribble or shoot. And then defensively, just take away space, play up in Tatum's face. As rough as Tobias's offense has been, since in this latter half of the season, Jason Tatum was not able to get going in crunch time in that game on last week because Tobias Harris defended him quite well.
Okay, so it's more just about a mentality. He can do exactly what he does. It's more about the moments for Toby.
Yeah, it's about being a Swiss Army knife, excelling in whatever your team needs you to be. You're going to be the most expensive Swiss Army knife in the world, but
that's what he's paid for, though. We knew that when we got him.
Right.
We didn't think he was going to be a superstar.
Yeah, well,
at least I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he could be an all-star, but I definitely didn't think that it would be like this, where it's like you are a slightly above replacement level role player. But I mean, he has sacrificed to try to fit what this team needs. And when you're a guy who likes to have touches and rhythm before he gets going as a scorer, and you're not in that role here, there's going to be lows and there's going to be highs. And I think he puts on a professional effort, a professional face, but it can't be, it's not necessarily easy when your game isn't predicated on fitting into that I'm a 3-and-D guy type peg.
That's right. That's not his game.
Yeah.
So Ben Simmons, let's just talk about him. Or is he even going to make it? Is he going to make it into the building for the series? Even just the building with street clothes on like me right now, is he going to be there?
So I was told by someone close to Ben that he's fine with being there on the bench, and being visible. It's more about what the Nets want. So we'll see if he's there, if he's visible or not. Not much to say about Ben Simmons these days. Like I think it's a sad fall from grace.
It is. I mean, even only the most grouchy of Philadelphia fans at this point don't feel some level of like what happened here about that whole thing. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. You look at I saw this clip of Markelle Fultz last night, and his jump shot is looking a lot better from like a lot closer to where it was. And I was wondering like what happened, like how do the Sixers in back to back years come out with these number one overall picks, who have these abnormal states of I don't know how to say it. I guess like
They just
they're
missed out on their career, lost potential.
yeah.
Unfortunately, don't mean to be rude, but some level of wasted potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the word. How do you and it's they were two of the most idiosyncratic situations you could think of, and they ended up being the number one pick in back to back seasons for the same team. That how in the exact same way. It wasn't like Fultz or Simmons couldn't uh rebound the ball, or they couldn't dribble the ball, or they couldn't pass the ball. They literally both had the exact same idiosyncratic weakness in their
Shortcoming, yeah.
games. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it, what are the odds? What are the odds of that?
It's just sad stuff. Yeah, Carson Wentz, the Carson Wentz situation is a lot more enjoyable because it's like, okay, he's going and actually flaming out. He's playing and kind of just continuing the stuff that got him out of Philly, and the Philadelphia faithful don't have to feel, sad about the Ben Simmons thing. If this guy, it's looking like this guy might not even be in the league in 3 or 4 years. It's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. I mean, people say like he doesn't like basketball, and people and people who I talk to would say it's like, no, of course he likes basketball. Like he's just injured right now. And I do think there are health issues like with his back. I think he has had long-standing back issues, but it's like you wish there was this level of fire and aggression to the way that he
That's right.
plays,
That's
and
right.
there hasn't been that in
It's
2
always been
years,
that
3
way
years.
though. Even at LSU, that was kind of my thing. I always thought that he was very talented. He's a fun player to watch, but the motor is just so cool. I mean, the RPMs never get up for him. I mean, there are moments he can pull it out in moments and try to slam on somebody and take it coast to coast. He used to be able to do that.
Well, so like you look at his rookie year in Philly, and even like his sophomore year in Philly, even his third year in Philly, those first 3 years, he was very good, and he had moments where he dazzled, and you could see that there was this passion and this fire to the way that he played. You're like, yeah, this guy has weaknesses, but you could tell that he really enjoys, or that he knows how to put the pedal down and knows how to really apply himself. And this season never really saw it. He looks like he is being held back by a force of some sort, and I think that force is internal.
So then, do the Nets get any games off the Sixers?
I think they win one, but I mean,
Okay.
I've been rewatching, the one game that both teams played fully healthy this season, just because that's the best gauge for a
Yep.
for a playoff preview. And I think there are some concerns. Like the Sixers are going to have to tighten up some things on defense. But I think what it comes down to is like the Nets are going to make open threes, but are they going to have enough offensive power in crunch time to pull out, to pull out the games necessary to pull off an upset? I don't think they do. I think they'll have probably one game where they're blistering from three, and that'll be enough, and the Sixers will give it to them. But I think this is going to be a 5-game series.
I think so too. What about the Celtics and the Heat? How many games is the
I think
Heat
that's
going to
going to be
get?
a very fascinating series. I could see that. I could see that going 7 games. I could see.
7. Whoa.
I could see it being a dogfight. I really could.
Wow.
Jimmy Butler is one of the top 5 players in the league into playoffs. That dude knows how to play in the playoffs. He knows how to exert himself. And I got killed for this take on Twitter. I think playoff Jimmy Butler is the best player in that series.
It's an interesting take. From what we've seen, Yeah.
Like
Playoff
Jay,
Rondo. There were moments where there's playoff Rondo, there's playoff Jimmy Butler.
right. That's right. And with Tatum, like Tatum's an awesome player. His shooting has fallen off a cliff, and like he's basically now an average shooter. And his decision making isn't great. His playmaking struggles at times. And he takes high difficulty shots, and he doesn't take. He doesn't. His shot selection isn't great at times. I think if Jimmy can keep it, can help them keep it close, and if the Heat can stay solid for 44 minutes, I think that series could go 7 easily. And I'm
I
not
was thinking
exact.
six,
I'm
7.
not.
Whoa, I would love
Yeah,
that.
and I'm not exactly sure that the Celtics. I'm not 100% sure the Celtics even win that series. To be honest, I'm not.
Okay.
I
Whoa.
the last couple days I have been talking myself into believing that maybe Miami pulls it off. I wouldn't bet on it. I just don't think it's out of the realm that Jimmy Butler could be that good. I mean, ask Boston about Jimmy Butler. He was awesome in that playoff run last year. He took the Celtics down to a final shot in that Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I
That's
mean,
true.
that dude when it comes to playoff time, that dude is better than anything the Celtics have, in my opinion.
The watching the sport will tell you that. It's obviously maybe on a 2K, he's definitely not the best player. But watching the game is more than 2K. So I was going to ask you what's the path to the Sixers beating the Celtics, but let's do both then. Since you think you're not sure if they're going to beat if the Celtics are going to beat the Heat, what's the path if it is the Celtics for the Sixers to take them down in round 2 and make it to the conference finals?
So I think the path for the Sixers beating the Celtics is number one, you're going to need Joel to be Joel. I mean, this is he's typically underperformed his regular season numbers in the postseason. You're going to need him to be his regular season self, if not a little better. You're going to need him to handle double teams better, especially, and the defensive effort is going to have to be there basically every play. And Harden's going to have to be himself. There can't be any where was James tonight games in that series. He has to be his best self. And I think if as long as those two are cooking, and you're getting a semi-consistent effort from Tyrese, whatever that looks like, I think you have a chance. And I think the Sixers generally played the Celtics pretty close this season. I mean, they lost the series 3-1. The Bucks beat them by 6 in overtime in Milwaukee when all of Boston starters were out. They lost by 40 in Milwaukee to the Celtics at full strength. They lost by 20 to the Celtics in Boston earlier in the season. If I'm thinking about like which team do I think has more to worry about individually with the Celtics, I think it's the Bucks. And so I think the Sixers, if the Sixers don't get in their heads and they don't play like Boston has their number, if they don't play like
Press.
they're
Yeah.
if they don't play like that, I think they can play them close. And when it comes to crunch time, I'm putting Joel up over against anybody. So that is the path to beating them. But they're going to have to play their best basketball, that's for sure. And the path for like we said, I think it's going to be a dogfight with Miami. If they get the Heat, I don't know what state of fatigue or health the Heat will be in. The Heat always strike fear. I think it's especially not concerning, but there's reason to have fears when you consider that Jimmy knows Joel's game very well. They were teammates. They were close friends. Jimmy knows knows Joel's game very, very well, and they will keep a series close. I tend to think that if Miami wins that first round series, they'll be exhausted by it, and I don't know that they'll be able to keep up with 7 rounds of Joel and James, and the depth that the Sixers have. I think I think that's a path, but it's going to take some luck, as it always does. But at the end of the day, the theme here is this: you're going to need Joel and James to step up and be players in the playoffs that they have not before. If they can
That's
do
right.
that, anything is possible here.
So if it's the Celtics and the Sixers in
If it's the Celtics and Sixers, my pick right now is Celtics and 7.
Celtics in 7. Okay. That
And
would
if
be a
it's
good
the
that
and
would be
if
a good
it's the
one.
six if it's a Sixers Heat, I would say Sixers in
6.
I think I'd take Sixers in 6 or 7. Yeah.
I just got to give Jimmy Butler, you're talking me into it. I got to give Jimmy at least 2 games, especially one at home. He's a competitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Heat have struggled all regular season. Jimmy is a different player in playoffs. He's not the same player. He coasts a lot in the regular season. He misses some games. You could see that he's not he turns up his level of aggression. I mean, we were talking about how in the bubble finals, we were like, is this guy a top 5 player in the NBA in the playoffs? And last season he was consistently willing that team to incredible wins in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And, he brought that He'd had no business being in that series without him.
So before I let you go, who's winning the Western Conference?
I'm not going to go Lakers because I'm not giving them credit for things that they haven't earned. I'm going to say the Phoenix Suns. I don't think that. I think the Golden State. Oh, watch out for the Warriors. It's been.
You got to win
cute,
on the road to win a championship. I'm sorry.
It's a cute idea. Unless they have the reincarnation of Mr. Christ himself walking into that building. I don't see how they're going to suddenly become that much better on the road. Wiggins is a very impactful player, extraordinarily impactful. They're still not going to have home court advantage in any series they play.
That's right. Their road record was atrocious this year.
Yes, it was like 9. I don't know the exact number. I think it was like they only won 9 or 10.
9 and 32 or something like that, because you get half at home and half away, right? Because they only won 9. So what's that? Yeah, 32, 9 and 32.
Yeah, and they were actually better than the inverse at home, which is impressive, honestly.
It's ridiculous, but you're gonna have to get one. So I guess that's 1 and 4. So that 9 out of 32 is one more than 1 and 4. So I guess they could like thread the needle, just win one.
Listen, if they win one on the road in any given series, they have a fair chance of winning it because they're practically unbeatable at home, and they have Steph, and anything's possible with Steph. But we can't go through years and years of data and say, if you're this good in regular season, you are typically primed for a playoff run. We can't say that and then go, but the Warriors, no, they can go 44 and 38, and we're going to have them there. Like,
that's right.
You can't. It's a double standard in a lot of ways.
The Lakers situation is an extenuating circumstance with LeBron out for extended time, Anthony Davis out for extended time. They're kind of gelling and coming together. You can give them a pass for a lot of those losses.
Yeah, and you can give the Suns a pass for being 45 and 37. They didn't have Booker for 30 or 40 games this year.
Yeah.
They didn't have half their team after the deadline because Durant didn't play.
That's right.
And there isn't a great precedent for teams making those type of big midseason trades. But this is Kevin Durant we're talking about. We're not talking about. I'm talking about the fourth
Jamal Crawford.
This isn't the fourth option on a good playoff team. This is perhaps
one
of the
player.
10 greatest players of all time, and who, by the way, everywhere he goes, fits seamlessly. Fits like a glove everywhere he goes. So I think if they're healthy, I am putting the Suns up against anybody. And this is going to be funny because everyone who was saying how Jokic is the 3-time MVP, I think there's a very good chance that the Nuggets get run off the court in the second round if they're playing the Suns.
Wow.
Swept. Okay. Nuggets are gonna go full drop because Jokic can't guard in space. And when they go full drop, that's gonna be mid-range madness for the Suns. It's going to be 16 to 18 footers for 4 games straight.
You heard it here first. If it's Nuggets Suns, Nuggets are getting swept.
Okay.
But I can't wait.
And by the way, the biggest it was narrated as the biggest season in Clippers history. There's a very strong chance they lose first round.
That's right.
So,
especially if playoff Russ comes and is playoff Russ. I mean,
yeah. You know what? Good for Russell Westbrook, though. I mean, I'm not a Westbrook guy at all. Like, I've generally always thought that he was that he has chased players away, in my opinion. But the way that he was talked about, the way that he was painted, in the Lakers, I'm happy to see him having some success in the Clippers.
It's good, but he's still Russell. So, you got to kind of try to, as a coach, guide him to the better place to get the best out of him and pull him before he can be harmed to the team.
That's right.
He's still got a ton of talent. So, sure. Austin, where can we catch you in the meantime before I'm able to have you? And what's your favorite? What are two of your favorite play-in situations before you go?
Two of my favorite play-in situations. I'm gonna be intrigued by it's basketball, and I love basketball. I'm gonna watch it all. I know I will, and I'm gonna watch it all from tip off the final buzzer. I think that Toronto Chicago game is going to be a little bit interesting because I love me some Pat Beverly. I love me some crazy Pat Beverly. I so bad when I get one of those jumps onto the scorer's table if they win that game and throws his jersey into the crowd and starts crying. Oh,
he'll do it again.
That. And you know what?
Will do it.
It isn't me laughing out of how pathetic it is. Like, I don't think I think passion is cool. And I think he is he loves the game and he's a very passionate player. That would be awesome to see him do that for Chicago. Win them that game as the 10 seed. That would be incredible. So I am all for it.
Chicago is a fun team. They could be I don't think Chicago is sweepable if they're able to make it in.
I think they get swept. I think they would get their butts kicked. But I will say this: if you told me at the beginning of the season that they would be a top 10 defense, I would have said this team is a 50-win team because everyone was like, the defense is going to be awful. It's their offense that's going to be good. Their offense has been garbage all season long. It's been their defense. So credit to them for finding the absolute most bizarre way of being mediocre. But here they are.
Zach LaVine's going to get hot. Watch out.
If he does, it could be interesting.
Y'all can follow Austin at NBA Krell and the show over at Mention Pod. Thank you all so much for listening, Austin. Great having you.
Thank you for having me.